Welcome back. So here's where we left our bookshelf, and in this tutorial we're going to add some crown molding. So this will be fun because we're going to learn a new tool, do some curves. Should look pretty good. But before we do that, let me show you a couple more little hints here we can do. So let's say we wanted to see our dados behind this face frame. We could just move the face frame out of the way. And notice, let me show you a little gotcha here. So notice how Sketchup locks to these axes. You can see there you get a dotted red line if you're right on an axis, otherwise it's kind of a grayish. You also get a green one if you move it back, or you can get a blue one if you move it up. Well, sometimes when you're moving, it might not be on the axis that you want it to be on. So let's say I wanted to move up and I can't quite see how it wants to pass through there. What you can do is when you get that line, you get that dotted line, if you hold shift, you'll see it turns bold, and now it locks, it'll only move on that line. So I can move this mouse wherever I want, and it'll only move on the red. Same thing, if I get it on blue, I can go way past where I want to go, hold shift to lock it, and then come back. But now I can only move up and down, same way back here, I can only move forward and back. And it'll, grab your hints there, so there's like the back of the frame, there's the front of the frame. So, help you moving things around. Okay, so our dado. So we could, move the frame out of the way, but that gets kind of annoying. You have to move it out, move it back, move it out, move it back. So if you go up here to Window, and you go to the Outliner, so this is showing us everything in our model. Here's our model here, and all the groups we've created. So everything we've made is a group. You can see there, as I click on these, it highlights which one I have selected. You can also click on them here and do the same thing. And this group here with the arrow, that's actually our face frame, because that group contains 4 more groups, which are all the individual pieces. It's the top, right, left, bottom. And you'll see you actually get this icon. So just like you get a dotted line around your face frame, even the little icon there has a little dotted line. And you can double click on one to go inside of it. Now we can go into our push-pull tool and modify it if we wanted to. Just as if we had double clicked on the face frame and then double clicked on this member of it and go into it. But the good thing about this outliner here, it gives us a quick way to hide a group. So I'm going to hide that. Now it's gone. And I can see my dados. And you can see here it's actually just grayed out in italic, so it's still there. You can right click and unhide, bring it back. You can actually hide from here, but you can't ever unhide because there's nothing to click on, so you have to use the outliner to unhide something. Unhide. Another little handy feature of this is we can actually go rename. We can give these our own names. It doesn't do much good to just have thousands of groups there, but you can see as we start to name these, it becomes a little more useful. So let's say we want to take our shelves, and we can actually, from here, we can right click and say make group, just like you can do here. You can say shelves. And let's say we wanted our case to be one. So let's take the top and the side. We're going to say group. We're going to rename to case. And then what we can do, another way to group is you can actually click on each of these and you'll see what is selected. That's probably the bottom. This is what we can't see. And rather than ungrouping the case and then selecting this and regrouping, we can just drag it into this group. So see case is highlighted, so it's going to become part of case. So now when you click case, the bottom is selected. And we'll find the side here. We'll drag the side in there. And this only one that's left is the back, which is that guy. So we'll rename him back. See that? So now our shelf is nice and kind of compartmentalized. And we kind of have, logical groups here. We've got the case, we'll probably build that all at once. Got our face frame, got our shelves, and you can show and hide each one along the way if you ever need to get in there and see some detail. It's pretty neat. So the outliner is really helpful. Let's unhide and bring him back. Okay, and I'll close this for now. I won't need him. So, our bookshelf. Now, you remember when we first created our size, we created those at 12 inches. Well, I've since added the face frame, and I actually rabbited the back by adding on a little bit, remember? So now we're bigger than 12. We're at 13 1/4. So let's say we weren't paying attention, and we actually meant the full bookshelf to only be 12 inches deep. So we need to resize this shelf, or resize the bookshelf down to 12 inches. So how can we do that? Well, we can hide our face frame, because that's always still going to be 3/4 of an inch deep. That's not going to change. So we'll hide him for now. And actually, let's hide the back as well. So one way to do this, and this would not be the easiest way, would be to go to each one of these parts, right? Go inside, get our push-pull, pull it back. We need to remove 1 1/4 inches, so we'll go 1, space 1/4. That's how you do, if you ever need to add a fraction to a whole number, you gotta just put a space between them there. So we can do that, right? And then we can come back out, and we can do this side, and then we can do the shelves. But there's got to be an easier way, and there is. So let's go back. Let's pull this back out. And let's actually rebuild the shelf using a different technique. We're going to keep this side, so he's good. We're going to remove the top. We're going to remove this side. We're going to remove these shelves. We're going to remove this bottom. What we're going to do here is we're going to turn this into a component. And right now, you can't really tell much difference. But you're going to see it here in a second. So this is still the piece. This piece now is 12. Well, it's a little more because it has the rabbited back, right? So I haven't resized yet. So let's remake our shelf. We'll pull this out to 18. And then we'll flip along red, I believe it was, yeah. And then we'll make our shelf down here. It's right from here to here. Make sure it's on not the back of the rabbit, but the front there. And pull this across. And actually, instead of doing the intermediate step of grouping, we can just make component right from here. And again, we'll see why in a second. This gives us the option to name it, so we'll just leave it as component 1 for now. Don't worry about that. And we'll copy this up. Oops. Okay. So we're back where we were. But now everything is a component rather than a group. So what that lets us do is this. When I go in here to edit this, you notice that this guy is also being selected. When I go to push-pull, it actually push-pulls both now. So a component is a kind of a reusable group. And if you edit any member of those, anything that's made from that original component, any copies, then all of them change. So now I can go 1¼ move it back. And I can come out and just do one of these shelves. And it can be any one in the group. So if I push-pull back, in this case I could type it, or I could reference, I can use Sketchup's hints here and just reference the side of the case right there. There we go. So now we resize with only 2 moves rather than having to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 moves. And we'll bring back our outliner. So we can bring back the back. Now you notice when I made my side, again I wasn't paying attention, and I needed to actually move it 18¾ So we can do that here. Let's just move this over 3/4 inch. It should line up now in the back. Yep. And because we have components, we can easily change these shelves. We're going to push-pull out to this edge. There we go. And then we'll unhide our face frame. And because we shrunk from the front back, our face frame doesn't line up anymore, so we'll just move him back into place to there. And now our whole shelf should be 12 inches, including all the face frame. So there we go. Pretty neat, huh? Now you notice the outliner gets a little more complicated. So a component gets this little 4 icon. In this case, remember, these were the shelves, so I made these components without grouping first. These guys were a group that I turned into a component, so they get an extra level deep there. So there's the actual group, and there's the component I made out of it. And just like anything else, you can rename these. Now, components, when you rename them, it's a little bit different. So we're going to give this the name of shelf. But you notice it keeps component 1 in brackets here. So you know that this shelf was part of this component 1, and these are all part of the same one. So if you edit any of these, they're all going to edit together, as we saw. Cool. All right, so let's get to our molding. Let's hide this guy. So let me, we're actually going to there's going to be 2 ways to do this. And I'm going to show you the first one over here to the side. So let me go over here. I won't use the bookshelf yet. We're going to create ourselves a new rectangle, and we're going to build our molding. We'll build it on 3 sides. We'll have it start here and come around there. So I'll simulate that down here. I'll make a new little box, roughly the same size as our bookshelf, let's say. And we'll pull this up. We're just going to use a simple cube for now. We're not going to build individual boards. So when you're adding molding, you're generally going to start, we'll start on one final edge. In this case, we're going to start here and wrap around 3 sides. And we'll start from this very back little edge here. And there's different ways that you can even start building this molding. So we'll try a couple. So let's say our molding is going to be, just to be even, we'll do a 1 inch, 1 by 1. So one way we could do this is to start building a square here. You can see it wants to jump on all these different axes, so we got to make sure we're on the right one. And it helps if you're looking right along perpendicular to the plane that you want to build against. So we're going to go 1, 1. So there's our little block. And because this is a another rectangle we drew, we can push-pull it just like anything else, right? So there's actually some very simple molding. You come on here to the edge to stop it. Just a little block molding. We're going to cut into that and get a little more interesting shape. So here comes a new tool. Here's the pencil tool. And the pencil just lets us freehand draw lines rather than having to draw a complete square every time. And let's give ourselves a nice little chamfer here. We're going to come in 1/8 of an inch from the top. So we'll make ourselves a guide. And let's actually add 1/8 of an inch right there. So I don't need to type. Just click. And I'll come in 1/8 of an inch here. There. And we'll use the pencil to connect these points. Oops. Just go from there to there. Right? Let's delete our guides here. Keep it clean. So now you can see these are 2 separate. We can pull that out. There's our chamfer. But we're actually just going to delete these other 2. So see, these lines make a complete face. So as soon as you delete one line, the face that it enclosed goes away because there's nothing to now complete that shape. We'll delete that line. And now we'll pull our molding across. Just a little bit. There we go. So here's a nice little chamfered molding. Pretty neat. Let's undo that. Oh, actually, before we undo. So if we wanted to get this on all 3 sides, what would we do? Well, we can build another chamfer here and pull it across, and build another chamfer back here and pull it across, but then our corners aren't going to line up. It's going to be really tough to make that happen. Luckily, Sketchup makes that much easier, of course. So we'll unhide that, or we'll delete that. And we're going to use the FollowMe tool. And the FollowMe starts out the same. You're going to pick a face, click there, but you tell it what you want it to follow. And see how we have this nice little line here that follows around the edge exactly where we want to go. That's what we're going to follow. So we're going to click here, and then we're going to go up to this line and start pulling out. And I've only clicked once to start, and now I'm just moving the mouse. I don't have the mouse button held down. When I get to this corner, I start going to the next line. It's going to automatically go around that corner for me. And as I move, my mouse is kind of unselected, so it goes away, but as soon as I let go, it's going to come back. So I'm going to follow on this edge. Get to this edge and do the same thing. Just going to follow along. And you can see there, it wrapped around the corner for me. I'm going to stop right there. Now, if you did actually want to come all the way around, you can do that. So let's go here and go follow me around here, come around the back. And you'll notice when I get close to the back here, see that? It actually wraps back around where we started. And you have to be careful because if you go a little too far, then it starts getting weird. See, it's going to start folding in on itself. So you want to make sure you stop in the correct point, which is going to be right there to make it look good, and click. Look at that. We got molding all the way around. Seamless, and you got nice little corners there, beautiful mitered corners. That's great. Now, remember I was going to show you 2 techniques. So this technique, when I followed around this edge, well, because of the way the things are built, this is all now one big solid object. I can't group just this box and just the molding as 2 separate things. I can do that top edge of the molding, but that's not what we want, right? We want the whole thing. Triple click, 1, 2, 3, selects the whole box. So that's where the second technique comes in. That's going to let us build the molding separate from what we're wrapping it around. But there's an extra step involved. Let's undo that. Let's go back. So now that we're done with this, let's remove this guy. And let's go back and build it on our actual bookshelf now. Now my molding is going to add about 1 inch or so. So let's actually make this face frame a little bit taller to compensate for that. We'll add 1 inch on here. So that way after we draw our molding around here, this will still be 1.5 inches reveal there. So let's come in here. I'm going to start out just the same as we did before. Remember, this is technique number 2. So this is a group now. This isn't a nice face yet, or a separate face. So let's draw this one a little bit differently. We'll come out 1 inch with our guides instead. And you'll notice here's another little tidbit about guides edge. If you draw on an edge, and if you start from a point, you notice we're not getting any dotted line here. If I click, you'll see there's a little tick mark right there. If you go around the back, you'll see it's like a little plus. So if you draw a guide along an edge from a corner, it just makes a little tick mark, doesn't make a dotted line. If you draw an edge from the middle of a line and out, then we get a dotted line you can see up here. That's right along that edge. So there's actually 3 ways to do a guide. You can come out into space or in onto a face, get a line. You can start from a corner and go in to get a point. And you can start from the middle of a line and go out to get a line parallel to the edge there. So we actually want one of these. And we'll come down one right there. And we actually do want a guide along here. So this is where it's going to get a little complicated here. We actually want to draw that third kind. And we want to do it like right here. So you can see now those two cross right there at that inch point. So we've got a nice little box here, and we'll confirm that with our rectangle. We won't actually draw one, but see that? So we've got a 1 inch by 1 inch box going from that point to here up. Okay, so let's make some curved molding this time. How do the curves work? So let's do the same thing as we did before. We're going to come down 1/8 of an inch, and we'll come in 1/8 of an inch. So we'll get some nice shoulders here. And we'll start with our line tool, and we're going to go from here over. And by default, it wants to keep drawing lines. So as you go, it just wants to keep drawing. So when you want it to stop, you'll hit escape. So we'll go here, and now press escape, and that'll stop that line from being drawn. And let's also go from here, because it's going to come out, and down, and I'll press escape. But what happens in the middle here, we're going to do a curve. So let's do a little cove. We'll do a nice little cove from there to there. So we're going to use this tool right here. This is the arc tool. There it is. And the arc is interesting. So you click where you want to start, and you click where you want to stop. And you see it's giving us a curve already, but that's not the exact curve we're going to have to use. It's just kind of giving us a little preview. So we're going to go click there, click at our endpoint, and now when you move the mouse, you get the option to change this curve. And as you zoom in here, it's going to make it easier to see. So if you go a little too far, now our curve is going up inside of our solid piece we're going to have up here. We don't want that. So we want to go right about there. And I haven't really found a way with Sketchup to be super precise about curves. You can see down in our measurements box there's a radius that's about 7/8. And you can actually type in a measurement here. So we could type in, well, let's type in actual real 7/8. Yeah, see? Didn't really like that. So I still don't really trust being super accurate with curves. I sort of use them as like a recommendation of this is kind of what my molding I want to look like, but I wouldn't take measurements off of it. So in this case, let's right about there. It looks pretty good. Now you'll notice when we drew that, this didn't fill in. Remember when we draw a rectangle? As soon as we finish it, right, it becomes solid right away. You can start push-pulling. That didn't become solid when we did that. And that's because we didn't finish this shape. Remember we started a pencil here and came over, came up and around, stopped here. But there's no pencil here. And because this is a group, there's no predefined line here for us. When we start with a cube, like this, all these edges already enclose a shape. So if we drew our rectangle here, we'll do a simple one over. This line that's here counts as a line towards finishing our shape here. We don't have that when we have groups. So we need to do it ourselves, basically. And we're just going to do that by taking our pencil and going from here to here. And now it filled in for us. All right, so let's delete these guides. Notice I'm selecting backwards. Again, you can never completely select the guide because they go on for infinity, so you can't ever select this way from left to right. You have to go from right to left. And let's just see how this is going to look here. So we'll do a little sample. Look at that, nice little curve there. But we want to do the follow me because we want to get this all the way around. Well, the problem is, since this was grouped, we don't have that line to follow. See, I can click the face, but nothing happens. I don't get to drag a line around here anymore. So we'll have to give it a path to follow. And once again, we're going to bring our pencil tool in. So we'll start from where we want our molding to start from, here, and we're just going to outline the top edge of our bookshelf, here, and over. We want to make sure we get the outside edge right there. And press escape, cancel that. So now we have something to follow. So now when we go follow me, face, and we can go up to that edge. See that? Come around, and we want to stop right back there. There we go. So we got our molding on 3 sides. We just had to give it a little hint of how to get there. And the benefit of that is now when we triple click this, 1, 2, 3, we have just the molding and nothing else. So now we can right click and group. And you see that when you do something with a curve, there's tons of detail in here. These are actually, flat faces. There's just many of them to approximate a curve. There's no real curve in computers. It just approximates to get as close as it can get. Right, so there's our molding. Now let's say we wanted a nice little third step here. We can come in. Let's say we wanted a nice little block molding to come out a little bit. In this case, let's show you another technique here. We're going to build a guide in. Let's say we want the whole block to be about 3 inches. We want 1 inch overhang. Let's go 1 inch here. And then from this point, we can come back in and we'll go 3. And I'm going to get close to that plane that I want to draw in. Otherwise, Sketchup can kind of give me hints to the wrong thing. So we're going to start from there. Up. And we're going to make this 3, 1, make it 1 inch deep again. Let's just check to make sure we lined up. Yep, it's on the correct plane there. And we want to do the same thing. We want to have this come all the way around with the follow me. But again, there's no line to draw. So I can start drawing a line here. There's no line to follow, I should say. But I don't know where to come back over. So I'll add another guide. Rotate around here. I'm going to come out 1 inch. And you'll see now we're on that green axis. So we're sure that's where we want to go. We'll come out 1 inch and then come back in 3 inches. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll go out 1 inch and come back in 3. And now we have a nice dotted line there to follow with our pencil. So we'll start from this corner, come to here, and come to here, because we don't actually want to cover the back with it. In this case, press escape. And we're going to go tools, follow me, start here, start following this line, and come around the corner. Stop right there. There we go. If we wanted to get that little curve, we'll just undo this and we'll draw our curve before we do the follow me. So let's say we want a nice little round over here. And I want it to be, have a little 1/8 of an inch, so we'll do 1/8 of an inch there and 1/8 of an inch here. Actually want this to come down 1/8. And we're going to want to come in 1/8 from here. So we're going to type in 7/8. So we've already got this line here. So we're going to come up and escape. We're going to come in and escape. We're going to draw our curve between these two. We're going to come down. Again, I'll zoom in a little bit. I don't want it to come outside of that. And this takes some practice getting used to of where these lines are going to have to be before you draw them to kind of get, if I want to put a little shoulder on this, it's tough to figure out which lines and which guides I have to put where, so it takes some practice. I'm used to doing it now, but you'll get faster at it. So now our shape is going to be here and up and around. So we're going to delete this line, and we're going to delete that line. And then we don't need any of these thousands of guides anymore, so let's delete these. Clean up the screen a little bit. I don't need these guys anymore. Oh, we do need actually the 3, so we'll keep those. Right, we need that dotted line, and this dotted line, and this dotted line over here. So we'll keep those guys. Notice our pencil is still here. Remember, we drew our pencil. I didn't undo that yet. So then we'll go follow me. We'll start here and come around. Stop right there. And now I got a nice little round over there. Now I've got some elegant molding. Delete these. Delete these. That one's already a group. And we'll group this guy. And we can go back to our outliner. And this is our... Well, actually, let's just do this. Let's group both these guys. And the same here as when you hold shift, you can select multiple. You can also do it over here. So we'll group this, and we're going to rename this. And this is the cove. This is the round over. Ta-da! Take those. So there's our molding. Alright, so that was a lot to go over. This is my longest tutorial yet, almost a half an hour. But hopefully I went through it at a good pace. You might have to watch it a couple times, but alright, stay tuned.